What is up, everybody? Welcome to D-Nice Sports Talk. I'm your host, Dylan Isley. Let's kind of just dive on into this Monday night game, Minnesota versus Chicago Bears. Now, I think Minnesota's defense came out, definitely played great. Mike Zimmer calling great defensive plays all game long, keeping that pressure on Justin Fields, not allowing them to get too crazy in that running game with David Montgomery, who has been known to go off on a couple games. So, shout out to Mike Zimmer. Good job on that defensive side of the ball. Also, Chicago did have a lot of mistakes on offense and defense with the chirping back and forth between the players, getting a lot of those calls. And a lot of that I'm putting on Matt Nagy. I mean, you saw Nagy in the first quarter. He got a penalty because he was chirping back the refs. So if you're a player seeing that, you're like, okay, this is what he wants us to do. He wants us to chirp back. He wants us to fight with these guys. He's like getting ahead a little bit. Turns out, not the best decision. I mean, when your head coach is doing that sort of stuff, who's probably out the door, the best of your players are going to start doing that same thing as well. Offensively, Kirk Cousins had one of his poor games of the season. A lot of it was that Chicago D-line was just wreaking havoc. I mean, Cousins was always under duress, constantly under pressure, and that defensive line just kept getting to him. That offensive line didn't really help much at all. I mean, they just kind of letting people walk through like they're a revolving door. I would like to say I've constantly went after Kubiak, but that second touchdown play he called was the best play call I think I've ever seen Kubiak throw. I'm going to run the clip and kind of explain. So we have Dalvin Cook and JJ in the backfield. Dalvin Cook motions out to the left. Then JJ is going to run a simple Texas route. He's going to go out, come back in. All three of those defensive backs on that side, his eyes are on JJ. He's our most explosive offensive weapon on that side, so he's getting all the attention. Then he runs his route. You can see once he cuts that back inside, all three defensive backs come down onto him, leaving us a wide open man the right side of the end zone for Kirk Cousins to just throw an easy completion to. So great play call by Clint Kubiak on that one. Okay, moving forward into Week 15 games. Starting on Saturday, we had the Patriots versus the Colts. Now, when you have Jonathan Taylor as your running back, it makes the game a whole lot easier. It's like having Derrick Henry. He just opens up everything for the entire offense. When you can just steadily feed a guy and they're constantly moving the chains, picking up yards, you're gonna be sitting pretty well offensively. Patriots never really got too much going offensively until late in the game, and then by that time it was too late. And then you have the beast Jonathan Taylor with a 67-yarder touchdown to clinch the game. I mean, that's an amazing game. He's one of those running backs where he's like a King Henry, a Dalvin Cook, a Nick Chubb, where you just keep handing him off the football and people are tired of hitting him. And then once that fourth quarter comes around, that defense is tired of getting smacked by the running back. Don't want to hit him anymore, letting him run wild, do basically whatever he wants at that point. Moving forward, we have the Cowboys versus the Giants. Hats off to Dan Quinn. I mean, he's completely turned that Dallas defense around. Don't get me wrong. Helps when you draft a rookie in Micah Parsons, who's definitely going to be the rookie defensive player of the year, and talks for just defensive player of the year in general. I mean, that's amazing for him to just come in there and help out that defense as much as he has. And when you got Diggs in the back just coming down with interceptions constantly. I mean, he has 10 interceptions already. That is ridiculous. So, good for Dallas. Beating up on the Giants. Yeah, it's the Giants. Yeah, they had Mike Lennon, but a win's a win, especially in a division game. Then we had the Jets versus the Dolphins. And the Jets played pretty solid. It was pretty close for a decent amount of the game. Dolphins just were able to overcome and get that win at the end. And then we had the huge upside of the week. The game a lot of people lost a lot of money on. Detroit versus Arizona. Them Lions came out and they were not losing that game. I don't know what Dan Campbell told them in the locker room, but he had them ready to go. Dan Campbell is a guy. His team is constantly ready to go out and die for him on the field. It's crazy. good for Detroit finally having somebody that can rally a team. That's a team that has had a lot of bad years. So maybe Dan Campbell can help turn them around in the future. Then we had the Turd Bowl between Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars. And Houston just slapped Jacksonville. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Jacksonville to win with all the talk around Urban Meyer this week, getting booted out of there. He's all the crap he's been doing. Moving on, Carolina versus the Bills. Feel bad for Cam. He's got to win a game eventually. I mean, he's came back. That team has a whole different energy, but Buffalo just kind of seemed to smack them around the entire game, and Carolina couldn't really do much about it. So, hoping Cam can get a win for that team come towards the end of the season. I understand there's talks of Sam Darnold coming back. I think if that happens, they should use Cam as a Taysom Hill role, where it's going to be like, hey, you know, Sam Darnold's going to be our guy. He's going to be our starter. But we're going to have some goal line plays for you, you know, do some play action, some RPOs in the goal line, because Cam is one of the best goal line quarterbacks just because he can do so much. I mean, he's a big body back there. If he comes barreling through, he's probably going to gain some yards. Moving on, Tennessee versus Pittsburgh. Tennessee out there looking like the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, let's be honest. They were up 10 points at the end of the first half, and then they didn't come out and score a single point the rest of the game. Big Ben had that offense rolling, led them to a W. Then we have the Falcons versus the Niners. Falcons came out on that first kickoff, forced a fumble, got the ball, went and scored, and then that was about all they did. I mean, when you have Kittle and Debo on the other side, that Niners team's looking tough. And then we have the Bengals versus the Broncos. Joey B leading the Cincinnati Bengals to another win and taking over the AFC North. So good for the Bengals. Then we have the Packers versus the Ravens. And eventually Harbaugh's got to kick that extra point. I mean, this is like 2 games in the last 3 weeks where they went on for a 2-point conversion and they didn't get it, and now they lose the game. I understand if you kick that extra point, you're giving Rodgers about 40 seconds, which he's proven time and time again. He can drive down the field to get in field goal range. But Mason Crosby has been up and down. So who knows if he's even making that kick. Harbaugh should have tried to send that game to overtime, letting it come down to the coin flip. If you get the ball, all right, sweet, let's go down and score. If we don't, defense got to step up again. Got to try slowing down Aaron Rodgers in that offense. Try to see if you can squeak out a W there. But going for 2 with a backup quarterback, not the best game plan. Then the Saints putting their boot on Tom Brady's throat. I mean, that Saints defense was absolutely nasty. They would not allow Tom Brady to get anything going. I understand Tom Brady had like basically no receivers out there. I mean, they're all backups. So for the Saints to be able to still hold down Tom Brady the way they did, I mean, Tom Brady is the GOAT. I mean, at the end of the day, it's pretty undisputed at this point. When you're going up against the GOAT, you expect greatness every single time. And for that defense to be able to keep him from not even scoring a single point, not a field goal or anything, that's absolutely amazing. So good for the Saints. Then last night, we had the Raiders and the Browns. And the Raiders winning on a last-second field goal by Daniel Carlson. I believe that's the 4th of his career. Well, 4th of this year. And if I'm the Raiders, that don't feel too much like a win to me. I mean, Cleveland had about 18 guys out. Their starting head coach is out. Yeah, that's a game you're supposed to win. It's a game you're supposed to blow out. I understand they didn't have Darren Waller. Okay, that's one guy compared to 18 and their head coach. I mean, Browns had to start Nick Mullens for crying out loud. The man was on their practice squad on Thursday. Got elevated as a starter with no practice time. Coming up today, we have Washington versus Philly. If Washington wins, they take that playoff spot, but it's going to be tough. They're on like their 3rd string quarterback at this point, missing a lot of key players. So it's going to be tough for them to squeak out a win. If Philly wins tonight, Minnesota gets to stay in that 7th spot. So kind of rooting for Philly on this one. And then we have Seattle versus the Rams. Now, Seattle needs to kind of find their identity. This season's basically over for them. I mean, let's be honest. This season has not been good for them at all. So they need to figure out where they're going to be at next year. I mean, again, a win over this Rams team would be super good for them, but Russ needs to decide, is he staying? Is he leaving? Reports about Pittsburgh being very interested in him. There's probably 15 teams in the NFL that would be interested in Russell Wilson if he becomes available. So Seahawks kind of just need to find their identity tonight, maybe squeak out a win, help keep Russ happy so he's wanting to come back next year. Moving forward, let's go to the playoff picture. In the NFC, we have Packers at number 1, the only NFL team to clinch a spot through 15 weeks. That is very unusual. Usually at this point in time in the season, multiple teams have clinched a spot and people are looking to rest their guys, try to figure out where they're going from here, get ready for that playoff push. But Packers right now the only people to clinch a spot. Then we have the Cowboys, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Rams, Niners, and Vikings in the playoff picture as of right now, subject to change. Cowboys, defense is stepping up. Dak has been abysmal the past couple weeks, so he really is going to need to turn around if they expect to do anything come playoff time. Zeke was starting off the season pretty decent, but has been abysmal too as of late. I know he has that knee injury he's trying to rehab and get better, but if you're on the field, you got to go. The Buccaneers, hopefully they can get some guys back. I think I saw Chris Godwin is out for the rest of the season, so that's not good for them. But Antonio Brown will be back next week, and he's going to be healthy. He's going to be fresh. So look for that Brady to AB connection come ending this season and into this playoff run. Arizona Cardinals, one of my favorite teams in the NFC as far as predictions to go to the Super Bowl. Kind of had that prediction from the beginning of the year. But as of late, these past 2 weeks, they've not been playing well. So I don't know if they're just in a slump. Hopefully they can get things turned around, start getting some wins. Then we have the Rams, which is a team I do not trust at all. Stafford cannot beat the good teams. He just doesn't. I mean, his 2 wins over winning teams this year have been Tampa Bay. Yeah, very impressive win, in the Cardinals. That's a divisional game. I mean, shoot, even as a Vikings fan, when we face the Bears every year, I usually am like, okay, we're probably going to split these games, and the Bears are not good. That's just kind of the way divisions work. I mean, they know too much to just go out there and take losses constantly in the division. The 49ers. Kittle, when healthy, in my opinion, is probably the best tight end in the league. Just because he can do things no other tight end can do. I know everyone's going to say Travis Kelce, but when Kittle is healthy, he can run routes that tight ends don't run. He makes plays tight ends don't run. He can block better than almost any other tight end in the league. I mean, he's an all-around perfect tight end. He just has injury problems. So, yes, Travis Kelce is the overall number 1 tight end, but when healthy, I think George Kittle could definitely vie for that number 1 tight end spot. Then Minnesota can beat the best team in the league and the worst team. And that is just a fact. I mean, they beat the Green Bay Packers, the best team in the NFL, and they've lost to the Detroit Lions, the worst team in the NFL. So if they make the playoffs, I think they're going to be dangerous. I think they'll win a game. They'll probably win their first game, then lose their next game in overtime. So that's kind of just what Minnesota does this season. Very frustrating. We're 15 weeks in. I probably had about 12 heart attacks already through this season. So never fun to watch the Minnesota Vikings. I think I'm starting to get gray. From the outside looking in the NFC, we have the Saints, Washington, Eagles, Falcons, Seahawks, Panthers, and Giants. Now, the Saints are the one team from the outside looking in that honestly scares me because of that defense. When you have defenses shutting down the best offense in the league, then that shows they can do that to any team. And if you can shut out any team, then you only have to put a couple points up on the board. And when you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield, putting up 3 points ain't very difficult. He can get you more than that. Washington, at this point in the season, they just have too many issues health-wise that's not going to allow them to get into the playoffs. Especially as I know they have to face at least the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, it's going to be tough for them to get a win tonight, so they're probably looking at 2 losses in their remaining 4 games. It's going to be difficult for them to make the playoffs. Philly, I think they're just too young to be able to get to the playoffs this year. I mean, they're looking like they actually have a decent squad now. At the beginning of the year, they were terrible. Now they're starting to look like they can do something. Maybe they should just start old Gardner Minshew in at quarterbacks. When he came in, he played great. So maybe if they go that route, I'd give them a little better chance. I like Gardner Minshew a lot more than I like Jalen Hurts, but I'm not the coach over there, so it's not my decision to make. Atlanta, who do they have? Cordell Patterson. I mean, this man's getting way up there in age. Don't get me wrong. He's being an absolute monster this year, but their defense is terrible, and the rest of their offense isn't really productive. It's literally just like, hey, let's just try to figure out every way possible to give Cordell Patterson the ball and hope he can carry us to a victory. So I'm not seeing high hopes for them. Seattle, they're just too far gone. I think Russ needs to figure out what he's going to do next year at this point in the season. I mean, he's having a hard time even getting DK Metcalf the ball, and he's probably going to be like the next Julio Jones. I mean, he's a huge target out there, and he can't even find him the ball. So that's a little difficult. Carolina, they don't even know what they're doing with their quarterback situation, so they're probably out of it. And the Giants are just terrible. I don't even know how they're still even technically able to make the playoffs. I mean, they're 4-10 at this point in the season, so they could somehow find a way in. That'd be mighty impressive. Moving on over to the AFC, we have the Chiefs, Patriots, Titans, Bengals, Colts, Chargers, and Bills. Now, the Chiefs finally hitting their stride. Their defense, once they've gotten healthy, has been honestly outstanding. Probably one of the best defenses in the year in this back half of the season. So that defense really stepping up, helping out Patrick Mahomes. That just goes to show you, I mean, for the Kirk haters out there, just because you have an elite quarterback doesn't mean he's always going to win. Your defense needs to step up. There are multiple games this season where Kirk's had the team up and then the defense lets him down. Then we're going to overtime. The other team gets the ball, goes down and scores. That defense can't stop anybody. Same thing was happening to Patrick Mahomes. Like, yeah, he was having a turnover issue, but Kirk was never having a turnover issue. He has the second best touchdown to interception ratio in the league. So, just my thoughts about the Chiefs. Patriots, when you have old Billy Goat Bill Belichick as your offensive coach, your head coach, you're going to win some games. I mean, he is just an absolute genius when it comes to football. And when he is out there making play calls, helping out that defense, they're going to be tough to beat. So, they'll be fun to watch again in the playoffs. Moving to Tennessee, once they get King Henry back, this is going to be a very dangerous team. King Henry is that entire offense. He gets the ball over 30 touches a game. He opens up the field for A.J. Brown and Julio because that entire defense is looking at King Henry like, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? Because that is that defense's number one concern. Cincinnati, looking like they got a guy with Joey B. I mean, Joe Burrow's came in there, and all he's been doing really is winning. I mean, he's been doing great in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase, another young stud. Smart pickup by them. I mean, their receiver room was already really good, but I think they did something smart with their front office. They're like, hey, let's go get Jamar Chase because this is who Joe Burrows wants. Like, let's keep him happy. So he wants to stay here. He wants to keep winning for us. So good job by Cincinnati in these most recent drafts to get them back into a playoff picture. The Colts, same thing as Tennessee with a better defense. So I think they could be a really scary team, and they're healthy, all healthy right now. So that's going to be a fun team to watch in the playoffs. The Chargers, same as Minnesota. I think they are basically the same team as far as being very explosive offenses, but they lose games they shouldn't lose and win games they shouldn't win. So they'll be interesting to watch in the playoffs. Then the Buffalo Bills, they have no run game. Like, absolutely none. Their leading rusher is Josh Allen, and he's not even a great running quarterback. It's not like he's Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick out there. I mean, he just, takes off and scrambles. So they got to figure out their running game in order for them to do anything, I think, in the playoffs. From the outside looking in the AFC, we have Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Vegas Raiders, Miami Dolphins, Browns, and Broncos. Ravens easily can make it into the playoffs. They just got to get Lamar back, I think. I mean, Huntley is a nice quarterback, but there's a reason why he's a backup. Okay, Lamar is their guy. They got to get Lamar back if they want any chance of making a playoff run. Pittsburgh, I think they're dead in the water. I think they're gonna go over 500 because that's just what Mike Tomlin does. But Big Ben is way too old at this point to be carrying teams. And Najee Harris is a stud, but when that's your biggest threat, you kind of just load the box up and stop him. The Raiders are pretty much dead. Like I said, they barely just beat the Browns. Like, that was not an impressive win at all. I feel like they should have blown them out in order to be like, okay, yeah, we can actually do something in this playoffs. Miami, I think they're too young still. I like Mike Flores a lot as a head coach. I think he will build them up for the future. Then next we have the Browns, and the Browns are a team I can see making it. They just got to get everybody healthy. Okay? Kevin Stefanski is an offensive genius. And when you have two running backs in the backfield and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, all you have to do is hand the ball off about 40 times a game, and you're probably going to win. I mean, that's just, you're going to win the clock management. You're going to have more time of possession, so your defense is going to stay fresh. And you're probably going to go and get some touchdowns because those guys are animals in that backfield. And then the Broncos, I mean, poor Teddy, right? Like, he's had a terrible career injury-wise. First, he basically loses his entire leg in Minnesota, goes to the Saints. Saints give him an opportunity. When Breeze goes down, he plays 5 games, goes 5-0. So he goes over to Carolina. Christian McCaffrey's out the entire season, so it's all on Teddy. Teddy can't pull enough wins together. Now they ship him over to Denver. He's been having multiple injuries this year, and now for him to be in concussion protocol, in the hospital, prayers to him. Hopefully he can get better. So that's it for the playoff picture. Now I kind of want to talk a little bit about the MVP conversation. So currently, I think Rodgers did just take the lead, but basically it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers at 1, and it's like Jonathan or Patrick Mahomes, I believe, is at 3, and then Jonathan Taylor's at 4. And I feel like the MVP needs to change its name to best quarterback on the best team. That's basically what it is at this point in time. I mean, the last MVP to win that wasn't a quarterback was Adrian Peterson. I mean, King Henry should have won it last year going away. He is the 8th person in NFL history to have over 2,000 rushing yards. Like, are you guys kidding me? Like, how does this man not win the award? I understand Rodgers had a pretty solid season, but King Henry is literally the only reason that Tennessee team made the playoffs. You throw them on any team in the NFL, and they're probably either making the playoffs or they're going to be at that 8th spot, like just barely from the outside looking in. So he definitely should have gotten the MVP last year. It's kind of the same argument with Jonathan Taylor. When you take Jonathan Taylor, move him to any other team, they're better this year than what they are. Okay? If I take Tom Brady, throw Aaron Rodgers in there into that offense, they're going to be the exact same, and vice versa. Like, those guys are interchangeable. Like, I can't take any other running back currently starting in the NFL, put them in Indy, and they're going to be the same team. Like, yes, King Henry when he's healthy. Dalvin Cook's been having kind of a bad year. Alvin Kamara, I mean, you see what his team's doing without, not a great quarterback play, which Carson Wentz has not been giving great quarterback play. Saquon Barkley's been having terrible quarterback play, and look how the Giants have been. He just doesn't produce winning football like Jonathan Taylor can. So that's my little rant about the MVP situation. I just feel like the league needs to open up its mind, maybe change some names around, I don't know, have just a quarterback award where it's like, hey, this is the Peyton Manning Award, something like that. Name it after a nice legend or something. And then we can actually have a true MVP. Now, I understand there's an MVP and then there's an Offensive Player of the Year award. No, disagree, okay? Because from a value standpoint, Jonathan Taylor right now is more valuable than anybody else in the league. Same thing last year. Derrick Henry was the most valuable player in the league. Okay? Aaron Donald is the most valuable person on that Rams team. Like, the reason why the Rams do win games is because of Aaron Donald. It's not because of Matthew Stafford. I could throw 15 other quarterbacks in there and they can all do what Stafford does. Okay? Goff just got into the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Like, okay, big whoop-de-doo. You went out and got Stafford and you paid a lot of money for it. You gave up a lot of picks for it, I should say. But and look at Detroit. I mean, they replaced Stafford with Goff. They're in the same situation they were. So don't tell me that Stafford's the reason why the Rams are all of a sudden winning games. No, it's because of that defense and Aaron Donald back there. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Peace.